What is the weather going to be?
Well, I looked at it, it's gonna get colder and rain for an hour.
Yeah, we're just going to get rain. Rain,
It's
right?
gonna be windy too.
Rain and wind.
It's gonna be windy and cold, and the snow 1 inch is gonna turn to rain, but because it's gonna be so cold, I'm wondering whether we would have an ice
Yeah.
situation.
Well, they brine the streets. They brine. Well, all right. So I won't be.
But it's such a pretty time to take a picture. You know, the ice storms and everything is like glistening.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Beautiful.
But yeah, a lot of wind.
Yeah, I'm just gonna open it. I'm gonna say a few words and you go up and
Joe, can you see okay there? Do you want to move one back? Most people don't like the front row. Also, the second row on either side.
maybe I'll just sit further back now.
Well, I wasn't trying to say it. You know,
We'll move back and
sit wherever you want. The view is better. No.
How old are your sons? Before they answer that question.
9 and 6.
9 and 7.
Excuse me?
As I said,
No.
Sit wherever you want, but you got social distance.
You guys, I don't recommend the front row, it'll hurt your neck. I recommend the second row on this side or that side and up. But I don't recommend the front row.
Like in a movie theater, do you sit like this?
I've tried every seat in the sanctuary. No, I'm usually up here. You can, I just don't recommend it. Because the floor goes a slope and it can hurt your neck.
And what I do is, call at least one person.
I'm making sure it's that. It's all good.
yeah, I thought we were going to be 51 and fall cold. Right. In the second, right? Yeah.
I use the word daily.
I'll do work around.
You know when you go international.
All right,
you
it's,
realize
It's 2 p.m. Joe,
in our.
should we start?
Yes, start.
Okay. All right, we're gonna start. Okay. I welcome everyone who's here today, and I want to remind you to please silence your electronic devices. I also just want to say how, after what happened yesterday in Texas, I'm so grateful that it had a positive resolution and that we can be here today and not take what we have for granted in our synagogue, our house of worship. I'd like to welcome Joe to come up and to come talk about the artwork. And Joe, I'm going to give you a little microphone so the people on the live stream can hear you. Here you go. Do you want to walk by each painting? Did you wanna-
Oh, okay, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Well, we do it in groups.
Or you could just, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I want to describe some of the artwork that's on display here. First of all, our wedding picture. We were married 23 years and 1 week ago today. More about that later when I do the closing tribute to Lois. This is a picture of Lois doing her favorite thing, taking photos when she was healthy, vibrant, and energetic and well. I'm going to talk later about how I converted Lois to be a Trekkie. Her favorite series was Deep Space Nine, so I found this beautiful poster of the Deep Space Nine cast. This picture is a street picture from New York City of two nuns. Every year she submitted photography into the Monmouth County Senior Art Show. In 2017, this picture won first place and best in show. It was then submitted to the state contest where she received an honorable mention. She was also published. This picture here is of Peggy's Cove up in Canada. We were up there in the rain and the fog. You couldn't see anything. All you could see was brief outlines. She did her magic in Photoshop, and AARP used it for their calendar for the September 2019 date. The picture of the lemon on the other side here, I Print From Home used it in 2016 as part of their calibration, so when you calibrated your monitor, you knew that whatever you had on your monitor was going to get printed right. Later in life, she decided to get into art and took art at the Middletown Senior Center. She did a whole variety of stuff. A lot of it is stuck to the wall and I couldn't get it down. I just tried to do a sample of her artwork. It's here. For beginning artist, she was very good. I don't think she ever submitted anything to try looking for awards. She was trying all different media. Over on the end is a bunch of greeting cards she's made. As many people know, she also made them for the temple. If anybody would like to take one as a memento of Lois, feel free at the end to take one.
Thank you, Joe. That was so beautiful. Sheviti Adonai Lenegdi Tamid Sheviti Adonai Lenegdi Tamid. God is always right here by my side. God is always right here by my side. Our first speaker today is Brenda Tuller. Everybody who comes up can go to either podium.
I met Lois at Temple when she and Joe came to a Friday night service as prospective new members. I realized that evening that I had previously met Lois at Parsi Park. She was the photographer of choice when the park hosted special events. I engaged Lois and Joe in a friendly, easygoing conversation. I secretly hoped that they would in fact decide to join MRT, which thankfully they did. Lois and I soon began a friendship and served on the Adult Ed Committee together. We attended temple programs and often carpooled to services and off-site events that the temple offered. Our friendship grew, and Lois and I spent time on the phone in lengthy conversations and met for play dates. We discussed so many varied topics of interest that we both shared, and I was attracted to her keen mind, perspective on many issues of the day, and eagerness to share her ideas. I always learned something new after spending time with her. I admired Lois's courage to speak her mind and express her views on sensitive topics, being faithful to her viewpoint rather than just going along with the crowd. If you wanted an honest opinion, you could just ask Lois and you would get it. She did not wear masks. I don't mean these masks. Lois was Lois. She had a rich educational and professional background with degrees in medical technology and business administration. She was a talented artist and photographer, and I envied her exceptional gifts. I attended several art shows where her works were displayed and admire the awards that she often received. She was very active in the arts community organizations. Over time, our friendship deepened and became intimate. I was heartbroken to learn that her cancer had resurfaced. She had dealt with cancer several times in her life and had beaten it each time. We were certain this would be the case again. She faced her cancer with a brave strength and was prepared for all eventualities. Once the pandemic hit, we were limited in our activities, so we met for walk and talk around her neighborhood or at a local park, and sometimes for a visit at her home. Time spent with Lois was so special and something I depended on and looked forward to. Our personal sharings were cathartic. When Lois became too weak to walk, I would call her on my phone while I was out walking and take her along with me as we chatted. I told her that I was there for her as her friend to help support her in any way she needed it as she dealt with her health challenges. Excuse me, get a little emotional. Lois was a devoted wife, always concerned about Joe's well-being and how her health issues were affecting him. She was fiercely independent, never one to focus on herself or dwell in self-pity, and showed concern for others. When I encountered a health problem, she sent me specific information to help me deal with it. She gave me books she had finished reading that she recommended. She gave me some photographic prints she had made. But most of all, she gave me her love, her compassion, and a friendship I will always treasure and miss every day. My special memories of a mutually respectful, harmonious, and fulfilling friendship will help fill the hole in my heart created when Lois left my life. Lois lives on in these memories, and my love for her endures.
Thank you, Brenda. We now call up Susie, Lois's sister.
Cockeye. I'm Susie. I'm Lois's sister. I wanted to say, I didn't write this down because I tend to go off on tangents. However, Lois, when she was a child, and probably even till the end, loved turtles more than anything in the world. And she always had them, be they real little, those little turtles, or statues and toys and whatever. Every year, when I didn't know what to get her, I got a turtle of some sort. And in my purse, in my wallet, I keep a talisman from every person whom I loved and who is passed. And so the first thing I did was ask Joe if I could go through her jewelry box and pick out a turtle, because I figured she had to have small turtles. And the first thing I looked at was this pin. And I keep this pin in my wallet. This is the first time it's been taken out, because I wanted her actually standing here. And this is one of the representations of Lois. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, this is Lois Annette Gans, that's our maiden name, Wilkes, celebration of her life and memorial. It is no accident or coincidence that Lois's passing is also the 47th anniversary of our dad's passing. It's not the end of the road, but a bend in the road. Our dad is, I believe, officially welcoming her into heaven. Her life's conduct is a tribute to his. Her honesty, integrity, and willingness to have an open mind followed his teaching. I cannot use the word death about my sister's passing, as passing is going to a higher level of existence, so her soul can re-enter this level. And I believe God wants her back here to continue her influence on others. And these are the things I remember about her. Lois was a chubby baby with a beautiful face, and I, at 4 years old, was jealous, very jealous. Unlike me, she was pliable and obedient. Not me. Until, however, the 3rd grade, when no matter what our mom said, she would wear only one skirt to school every day from September through June. This is the truth, too. I can still remember. At that time, it was called a dungaree skirt. Now it's just jeans. But anyway, she stood her ground, and Mom gave in. I don't know if she had a few of them or if Mom washed, dried, and ironed the same one every night. I was afraid of the dentist and tried to scare her. Misery loves company, right? But it didn't work, and she wound up with beautiful teeth and a beautiful smile, which I'm glad I'm wearing a mask. Lois always had her own mind. She had many talents and achievements, and everyone listening knows them, so I won't reiterate. This is my personal knowledge of her. She and I became close when I moved back to Jersey 4 years ago, and now I consider Joe my brother. They seemed like 2 peas in a pod. I always loved her, and she me. We didn't always like each other that much, but in the last few years, we came to love and like each other. What I miss most is our pretty much daily phone conversations. Last but not least is every photo and painting of hers that is hanging in every room that I have in my house was made by my prolific sister, and whose spirit thrives on every wall in my home. I also want to add one thing. While I was driving here, of course, Lois was on my mind, and all of a sudden, I knew she was in the car when a remembrance came from many years ago, and I heard Lois saying to somebody, I don't know who, "This is my sister, Thootie." And I haven't thought of that in 70-odd years, but I knew she was there. And the very last thing I'm going to say is I believe Lois truly is resting in peace. In my mind, she's lying on her side, sleeping peacefully, surrounded by a wooden container that's keeping cold, bugs, every horror in the world away from her, so that she can indeed eternally rest in peace. And that is my sister. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you. We now call up, not your turn yet, Joe. Sorry. We're going to call up Dr. Ellen Rubenstein.
Hi, everybody. I first met Lois several years ago in the sukkah at Rabbi Klein's house. She immediately struck me as pleasant, bright, and direct. We learned that we both enjoyed photography and were members of local arts organizations. After that, we found each other at various exhibits and commented to each other about the artwork, including each other's photographs. Lois introduced me to the Art Society of Monmouth County, which I joined, and it was fun to participate in the same shows. Lois was also a member of the Adult Education Committee at Monmouth Reform Temple, of which I'm currently the chair. She always contributed ideas and comments, was helpful in researching information about potential programs and trips, and offered her presence and assistance as long as she could. In addition, she used to prepare flyers for our events. I noticed at other times that she was a volunteer photographer for many pre-COVID temple events. We told each other about our families and backgrounds. I learned that Lois had been attending Unitarian services, but had been considering her Judaism. Her husband, Joe, a Catholic, encouraged Lois to revisit and explore her Jewish roots. This is what brought them to Monmouth Reform Temple. In responding to that encouragement, Lois found a community that offered something she had been missing, one that she appreciated and in which she was appreciated, where she felt both energized and comfortable. Lois once said to me that Joe is a wonderful man. I know they were very happy together. It must have been fun to share their hobbies and interests. Lois with her photography and later acrylics, Joe with his electronics, math, and photography as well. We have Joe to thank for Lois finding MRT, thereby giving us the opportunity to get to know her and to enjoy spending time with her. Joe, you know you have our support. Lois, we will miss you.
Now we call up Jeff. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeff. I'm Lois's nephew.
And you're taller than most of us.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, hi. My name is Jeff. I'm Lois's nephew. Just got a few words to say. Lois was a wonderful person, and we all love her, and we all miss her a lot. She was a lucky person in life. She had two great husbands. First it was Les, and then it was Joe, and very few people could say that they had two great marriages, and she was a very lucky person, and we all miss her. One of the funniest stories I could tell people about Lois is that when I was 9 years old, I was at her house, and it was Halloween, and Lois wanted me to go trick-or-treating. So she dressed me up as a bed. She put a sheet over me and then tied a pillow to me, and everyone was like Dracula, Frankenstein. I was a bed. Not a ghost, but a bed. But Lois, that's how Lois, she was an artist. She thinks out of the box. That's the reason why her artwork is so great, because she could see things that most people can't see. And the best thing about Lois is she was such a kind person. And Joe and Lois was perfect together because they brought out the best of each other. And we also loved Lois, and we loved Les and Joe, and everyone in her life is great. So, Joe, we will always be there for you, like I said at the funeral, and we love you too, and you can always count on us, probably everyone in this room. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And now I have a recording to play from Lois's niece in San Diego.
Hi, everybody. This is Melanie. I'm Lois's niece. Thank you, Joe, for putting on this beautiful memorial and for being such a loving husband to Lois. You made her so happy. I live in San Diego, California, yet despite the miles, Lois and I had a very close relationship. Although we didn't actually see each other that often, we spoke regularly by phone and by text. Our conversations were always heartfelt and awesome.
Wait, where'd it go?
I live in San Diego, California. Lois and I had a very close relation. We see each other that often. We spoke regularly by phone and by text. Our conversations were always heartfelt and awesome, and I will cherish the memory of them in my heart forever. As you all know, Lois was very loving, caring, and giving of herself to her family and to her friends. I will miss her a lot, but she lives on in my memories and in my heart, and on my walls, which contain her beautiful art and her spirit. Rest in peace, my beautiful aunt. I love you with all my heart, and I know we will see each other again in the future.
Thank you, Melanie. And now I am honored to share several things that were written so many people wanted to honor and remember Lois. So this is from Helen and Ernie Anthelis. Hi, Joe. We will be thinking of you tomorrow. On behalf of the entire Art Society of Monmouth County, we mourn the loss of our dear member, Lois. As many of you know, Lois was a highly talented and award-winning photographer. Lois was also eager to learn new mediums, so she took classes to learn acrylic painting and experimented with different styles of painting. Lois participated in many local exhibits, and her work always stood out. She had such a unique way of viewing ordinary objects and scenes and turning photographs into works of art. We remember Lois for her kindness and her caring nature. Lois liked to learn and to share her knowledge. She will be missed. But we are richer that she was part of our lives. May her memory be eternal. Helen and Ernie. The following people made donations in Lois's name, and there are more probably. Jay and Ann Armstrong made a donation to the American Cancer Society. The Fox Hill Neighborhood Women's Club made women's book club made a donation to the Middletown Public Library. Ed Papson planted 2 trees in Israel in Lois's name. And Simon Zellinger will be making a donation to MRT, the American Cancer Society. This is from Cheryl. Hi, Joe. I have to attend virtually. Please read this with my love. My dear friend Lois, I miss your smile and your wonderful outlook on my life. I don't think I've ever met a kinder person, and I valued your friendship. Remembering you reminds me of the great times we spent together on many photography trips where we shared your skills as a great photographer. Just looking around your home, seeing the wonderful pictures you took and proudly displayed them is proof of your talent, along with the many honors and awards you received. But your art didn't stop there. You also ventured out to the world of painting and excelled there as well. Just as your teacher, Donna, I know she'll attest your talents, always striving to try something new. As I write this, I see your smile. I miss you, Lois. Fondly, Cheryl. This is from Rabbi Klein. I want you to know how much I cherish you and Lois, Joe. When you came into our world, you both did so with force. Instantly, you found friends and niches to call home. Lois's artistry impacted our synagogue immediately and our lives. She gifted Lori and I 2 pieces. Obviously, her work is cherished and appreciated across the arts world. Her awards and accolades are well represented by the sample pieces you put on display for the memorial service. Most importantly, Lois was amazingly kind. You both have created warm friendships here and exampled for us the way in which we should welcome each other. I can tell you that our Tuesday group sorely misses her comments, her sense of humor, her joy. Thank you for trusting us and bringing Lois into our lives. We love you, know that we are always here for you, and look forward to sharing in your world for years to come. From Rabbi Klein. This is from Ken Barber. I met Lois at the Red Bank Photography Club. Lois was always a talented photographer with a good photographic eye. At one meeting, Lois presented several photos she took with her cell phone, and they were as good as any photos that were taken with her professional camera gear. Lois was very friendly and always helpful to other photographers that had questions. That was from Ken Barber. This is from Annie Mutterer. Death is hard to face, whether it's the death of a family member or a close friend. And Lois was indeed a close friend. Although we moved to Florida a few years ago, we always look forward to the next visit, the next lunch, the next call. My husband Dave and I met Lois and Joe when we were members of MARC, Middletown Amateur Radio Club. Our friendship continued long after the club was no more, and we enjoyed Saturday lunches, dinner dates, a cruise to Canada, and mostly we enjoyed our friendship. Our friendship was based on mutual interest, respect, and caring for each other. While Joe and Dave talked about all things technical, Lois and I would discuss everything from art to family, foods to finances, to relationships, religion, and yes, dreaded cancer. Lois had a lifetime of experience that she generously shared with me, and she was always open to letting me vent or offer some great advice on career or personal challenges. She was a creative artist and very proud of her accomplishments. She was generous in sharing many of her photographs and greeting cards with me. I'm happy to know that I can walk through my home and see Lois through my art. COVID got in the way, and our visits to New Jersey were few and limited to a few business meetings or family obligations. Lois and Joe were unable to travel to Florida. Understanding Lois's challenges and my own, we realized we needed to wait for life to be safer, and sadly that time did not come. I last spoke to Lois 2 months before she lost her battle. She knew I was fighting the same leukemia, CLL, and wanted me to be careful with COVID and make sure I had the antibodies needed to fight. She was thinking of me and not what she was going through, which was typical of my many conversations with Lois. She would always share what worked in her life in hopes of helping those around her avoid obstacles. When you got to know Lois, you understood that she was a special woman. Her art reflected the beauty of her soul. She was a brilliant woman, but she did not lord her intelligence over you. She was a warrior, not only for herself, but for those she loved. She was a good friend, a faithful woman. She was a sister, an aunt, and a wife who adored her husband, Joe. Joe and Lois had a great relationship. They were best friends and had each other's backs through good times and bad. Their love was beautiful to witness, and Joe, You gave Lois the greatest gift of all by making tough decisions when she could not. She trusted no one more than you, and you did not let her down. She's smiling at you, and she's without pain. Know that her love endures forever. Goodbye, my friend. I know this goodbye is not the end. It simply means I will miss you until we meet again. Annie Mutterer. All the neighbors got together and wrote this to Joe. This is from Laura, Regina, Patty, Chris, Carol, Gay, Joyce, Allison, and Pam. This comes with the deepest sympathy of the group of women who invaded your home once a year for book club. More importantly, a group of women who absolutely loved and adored Lois. She was thoughtful and caring, a wonderful friend and neighbor who brought great insights to our discussion and made everyone feel that their opinions were important and valuable too. We don't have to tell you how much she is missed. We wanted to let you know that together we made a $500 donation to the Middletown Library in memory and in honor of Lois. Her current campaign is for a history and technology room, and we thought this was a fitting tribute for Lois. She enjoyed the library and also had the honor of having some of her amazing work shown there. Our thoughts and our prayers are truly with you. This is from Deborah Murphy. How does one begin to sum up life in a few sentences or paragraphs? It's never easy, and that's certainly true with Lois. I met Lois through our local camera club. She was a phenomenal and gifted photographer who was always willing to share her insights and knowledge. She loved being able to teach and assist others and was always quick to offer to help. She was eager to learn, too. She often sought out people to teach her different photographic techniques, and she'd graciously share those sessions with lucky people like me. She was also great about planning interesting photo excursions and road trips that were always enlightening and enjoyable. Lois loved learning new things. She was very artistically gifted, and I believe that she even surprised herself late in life with her drawing and painting talents that emerged. She enjoyed traveling, whether it be by land or by air or by sea, and she always came back with beautiful photographs and interesting stories. Lois was a wonderful person and a terrific friend. She was always concerned about your well-being and went that extra mile to check in on friends. She's kind, compassionate, joyful, caring, thankful, and always grateful. The world has lost a truly remarkable woman who will be missed more than words can express. That was from Deborah. This is from Wei Mar. Good afternoon, family, relatives, and friends of Lois Annette Wilkes. I have some words to share with you, if I may. First, regrettably, I cannot be at the temple in person, but I'm there in spirit at least. For most of you who may not know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Wei Wa Mar. Most people normally call me Wei for short. And I'd been a longtime friend of Lois for many, many years, like 53 or more years, for those who may be counting. I'd like to share two special stories with you as follows. These are early stories that not too many people know, both of which involved my friend Lois in one way or another. I can still remember the day in early 1969 when I went to visit my faculty advisor at Rutgers. I was there to finalize the clinical classes that I would be able to take at Beth Israel Hospital in Newark to finish my last year at Rutgers. While waiting in the hallway to meet with my advisor through the glass door of her office, I could see my professor was having an important phone discussion with somebody on the line. My scheduled visit came and went, and my waiting time went from 30 minutes to an hour, from an hour to an hour and a half, and then from that time to 2 hours, and finally at 2.5 hours, at which point I finally got to see my faculty advisor. Better late than never, as they say. My advisor apologized and then explained that she was on the phone talking with a student who had taken a year or two off and was returning to finish her last year at Rutgers, just like me. As it turned out, that returning student was Lois herself. And that was my first encounter with Lois, before we actually met in person during our clinical year of training of medical technology, which was our major at Rutgers. And thereafter, from time to time, I would always tease Lois by reminding her about how she kept me waiting so long before I finally got to meet with my faculty advisor. I can also remember the time after Lois and I finally graduated from Rutgers with our degree in 1970, that I received a phone call from her. At her new job in the laboratory at Prudential, Lois said that they were looking for new hires, and she asked if I was interested. Yes, believe it or not, Prudential did have its own medical underwriting laboratory at one time. And as a result, I did get interviewed for a job in the same laboratory and got accepted to my delight. But little did I know until later on that Prudential's laboratory had a policy that credits anyone with an additional day off if he or she can find another hire of work for them. So after I was hired, Lois was happy to ask her extra day off. But she was then disappointed when they told her she was not eligible to get her extra day off. Why, may you ask? Because the extra day policy actually applies to someone who is hired for a full-time position and not a part-time position like I was first hired for. Of course, this was not what Lois wanted to hear, but it was good news for me in the long run. Because a few weeks later, I got hired full-time in the laboratory, which was a stepping stone to my entire working career at the Prudential for 38.5 years. And for this, I am forever grateful to my dear friend Lois, even though it was a bummer that she did not get her extra day off as she expected back then in 1970. I just have to say, I can't believe they didn't give her a day off. Whew, times have changed. Whew. More importantly, today is a special day for all of us who are gathered wherever they may be, to sadly remember a certain person who's passed recently. Thanks to all who made it possible, especially during this extraordinary time, today's memorial service is to honor and pay tribute to Lois, and this is the right thing to do. It's the proper place to acknowledge the stories and the memories and the moments that you shared with a friend or loved one who is not departed. It's a time to recognize that death may have taken away a person's physical presence, but that person will continue to live on in our memories and our stories. So from my perspective, Lois was a nice, friendly person that anyone could strike up a conversation with, also one with a sense of humor. And she was undoubtedly intelligent and gifted in many ways. Nothing stopped her from becoming a better person each time she decided to do something new, including getting remarried to a lovable guy named Joe, who became the joy of her life during much of her time on this earth. Following her graduation from Rutgers, Lois worked as a medical technologist with a supervising role in the laboratory at Prudential for many years. And from laboratory work, Lois then decided to move on to becoming a computer programmer for the corporate offices at Prudential. And after her days at Prudential, she worked at other places. But later in life, that's when Lois began to show her true calling and many talents by becoming the natural photographer and artist that we all have known through her amazing artwork. And from time to time, she would also share her expertise in the field of digital photography with me. This is the Lois that I shall always remember fondly. In closing, please be reminded of the following tonight. When you look up at the clear and dark sky, you will find many stars. Among these stars, you will notice a new star shining already in the heavens. Well, that star belongs to my dear friend Lois, as she looks down on all of us with a big smile, telling us that's all's well with her, and that we shall all meet again someday. Meantime, you can be sure that she's taking beautiful pictures of us below and showing them in a photo gallery somewhere in the heavens. Lois, may you rest in peace. May God bless you and everyone. And now, before we call up Joe to speak, I will read with you the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And now we call up Joe.
I'd like to wrap up with my tribute to Lois. Lois was a multi-talented person. From her high school yearbook, it says, Lois Scans, Bio Club, Chem Lab Squad, Junior Achievement, Junior Red Cross. She had a BS in medical technology and worked for Prudential for many years in the medical testing lab as a supervisor. She worked with consultants in moving the lab into the computer age. The man who ran the consulting company also did humanitarian aid in Eastern Europe. At Prudential, she specialized in HIV testing, and in 1993 went to Romania on a humanitarian aid mission to teach the medical people there how to safely do HIV testing. But she wanted to get out of the lab. So she went back to school and got an associate's and then a bachelor's degree in business administration. She also became a fellow of the Life Management Institute, which is a professional development program that provides business education in the insurance and financial services industry. I met Lois at a Super Bowl party in January 1998. We both sat as far away from the TV as possible, since neither of us were interested in sports. We started talking, moved to another room so we wouldn't bother anybody watching the TV, and continued talking for the rest of the night. Later, we both realized it was love at first sight. I did not ask her out that night, but did the next week when I saw her again at a bowling event. Looking back, I think we only maybe had 3 dates before we became a couple. Our third date was at the Trenton Computer Fair. It turned out she was interested in computers and took a class to become a desktop support person. I lent her some computers so she could do her homework. She was the only one in the class to get a job in desktop support because she had real computer experience. While we were going out, I introduced her to Star Trek, and she became a Trekkie. She liked Voyager and Star Trek: The Next Generation, but her favorite was Star Trek: Deep Space Nine. We watched all 3 series many times. When I met her, she was teaching out-of-work people how to use the internet to search for jobs. After she took the desktop support class, she had several jobs doing PC support and eventually fell into technical writing and went back to Prudential. After a few years, she finally retired from Prudential. But she was only home for a few weeks before she got a job at a small company in Hazlet. She used her computer and business skills to completely computerize the office and replace all the paper records. She finally retired from work in 2010. Lois and I shared a passion for photography. Like many others of my generation, I had a Brownie Hawkeye camera as a kid. In 1981, I decided to get a real camera and purchased a Canon SLR camera and started taking more pictures. In the early 90s, I got interested in digital photography when I helped a friend design a digital camera for his telescope. But when commercial digital cameras became available, they cost tens of thousands of dollars, so I waited to buy one. Lois had done photography also, but put it aside after her first husband died. Lois and I got married on January 9th, 1999, 23 years ago. One of my coworkers took pictures of the wedding with a small digital camera, so I purchased the same camera as my coworker. It arrived a week after we were married. As we sat down to eat dinner and I unpacked the camera, her eyes lit up. So I handed her the camera and said it was a wedding present. I decided I would get a digital camera of my own someday. Lois's first husband, Les, died in July 1996. When we got married, she was still in mourning. The camera re-energized her, and she finally started really enjoying life again. I always thought I was a good photographer until I met Lois. For a while, she used several point-and-shoot digital cameras. I later got my digital SLR, but Lois insisted she liked simpler cameras. Finally, I got her to get an SLR, and suddenly her photography took off. I had used Photoshop in the 80s on an Apple computer for a project at work. And later, when it came out for Windows, I got a copy. When that copy became obsolete, I took it home and gave it to her. She took to a Photoshop like a fish to water, upgraded to the latest version, and quickly exceeded my Photoshop skills. We joined the Monmouth Camera Club and a club in Red Bank and went on many photo activities. We'd also stand next to each other and take the same picture. I'd come home, bring it up on my screen on the computer, and go yuck. She'd take her photograph, bring it up on the screen, pull it into Photoshop, do our artistic magic, submit the work to a contest, and get an award. This is just some of the awards that she's gotten. I posted on Facebook a list of all of her awards on both my Facebook and her Facebook accounts. She got many, many awards in all different contests. Over the last few years, as others have said, she got interested in art. She took art classes at the Middletown Senior Center. She did fantastic work and developed a new skill. She focused on the fusion of art and photography. I already said that there's a bunch of her artwork and photography on display. There's a bunch of her greeting cards. If anybody wants one or two, they're welcome to take it. When we first met, she was attending the Presbyterian Society of East Brunswick, where she was vice president of the board. From the time I met her, I kept encouraging her to explore her roots. Almost 6 years ago at a street fair in Red Bank, she stopped at a booth and met Rabbi Mark Klein. Later, when we met up, she said she wanted to set up a meeting with him to learn more about the temple. We went to the meeting and decided to start attending services and finally joined the temple in the fall of 2016. I supported her in all of her efforts to reclaim her Jewish heritage. She was a member of our neighborhood women's book club. She enjoyed the monthly meetings, sometimes read the books. She always had a good time, but not partake in the wine, which I would kid her and say that was the only reason for the club. Our last vacation was in October 2019. We traveled to Assanteague Island National Seashore in Virginia to see the wild horses. She took many pictures there. I didn't write it down, but I wanted to remember that in June of 2000, we traveled to Hawaii. I met a bunch of my friends who were all ham radio operators, and we set up a station on the beach on Kauai for an annual contest that ham radio operators have. Lois and I spent 10 days touring the various islands in Hawaii. We came home, and she said she didn't really have a good time. But if I remember right, she took something like 1,500 pictures with that little digital camera. She filled several zip drives as we used at the time. I had brought a laptop with me and a zip drive reader, and we backed up all of her photos on zip drives. Every place we went on vacation, she took 1 million pictures. I got her to go down to Disney World in Florida one year. I went on every ride. She took pictures all over the place and bemoaned there weren't a lot of good pictures to take at Disneyland. The pandemic was a stress on both of us, especially Lois. About a year ago, she was diagnosed with leukemia. We were both optimistic that the daily medication she was on would keep it in remission. Then this past September, things got worse. She battled cancer 4 times over the last 15 years. She lost that last battle. She was the most loving person I ever knew. I always described her as having a bubble of love surrounding her. She was my loving wife and my best friend. I miss her. Rest in peace, my love.
Thank you, Joe. Lois gave all of us art. I'm only going to show you some of what she gave me, but she gave me this she made pretty close to recently and won an award for it, and I love it. I just love it so much. It's called Aging Gracefully. And I think a few years ago, she gave me this rock, this crazy rock. And she said, I liked it for you, Gabby, because it looks so happy. I said, you don't think it a little scary? She said, no, I think it looks happy. I said, fine, it looks happy. Keep it on my shelf all the time. All my bar mitzvah students love this rock. They say, what's that? I said, that's my happy rock. They said, that's happy? I said, yeah, that's happy. Thank you, Lois. That's just some of what she gave me. Our precious and beloved Lois lives on through this legacy of beautiful art and devoted friends and such precious memories we each have of Lois. Joe, I realize that this is hardest for you. Lois and I spoke once a week, and we texted all the time. She was incredibly bright and funny and generous and truthful, and the love that Joe and Lois shared was powerful. Last Sunday marked your 23rd year of marriage. And Joe, as you sat vigil by her bedside, you and I spoke for hours. And the doctors would come in and the hospice people would come in, and you were there, always keeping her wishes at the front of your decisions. I remember when the doctor came in who looked like he was 13 years old, and we both talked to him, and, you just made sure that everything was the way that Lois would want it. You did everything, and you are continuing to do everything exactly as she would have chosen. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or from strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until not looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, step by step, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey that we were blessed to share with Lois. I will close with this. As Lois was a devoted Trekkie, so you will understand when I say, death is a state in which one exists only in the memory of others, which is why it is not an end. No goodbyes, just good memories. Hailing frequencies closed, sir. Shabbat shalom, shalom always, sweet Lois. And we say only peace. Amen. Let's take a moment to take a breath. And when we're ready, we'll get up, walk around. We're going to greet you, Joe. We'll look at this beautiful artwork. And we will remember Lois with so much love. Oh, say shalom bimroma, huya say shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for coming.